Yeah, man, it's just one of those days. I mean, everything's going wrong, but it's up to me to turn that around, just like it is up to anyone. So if we just think about the good, ignore the bad, we could turn this around. Plus, no matter what, no matter what, I got summer on the inside.
Welcome, Russell. So I'd love to hear a little bit about your background. So what was your upbringing like, the experience, the challenges that you faced, or things that were amazing, or really things that were supportive in helping create the version of you that sits in front of us now?
Ooh, juicy. So yeah, upbringing. Uh, I'll just go with, what led into me being me, which is I was born into I was born into a divorce. So at a very young age, the way I look at it, I was born into a bit of chaos. And then with that, it led into, before I was even old enough to know anything had happened, my mom had remarried, found somebody new, and I was raised with, hey, this is your dad. And I had no knowledge of my, you know, biological dad or any other bits of my family. So, moving further down the road, at a certain point, it was introduced to me like, hey, we're going to go meet your dad. And that threw me for a loop because I was raised with, well, my stepdad is my dad. What are you talking about?
Wow.
And that's just, one piece of the puzzle there. And then at the level of living within the home I was raised in, the stepdad I got, he didn't like me, never really treated me well. So it was a, even a bigger like kick to me as a kid, to where I found out I have two dads and one of them's absent and then the other one didn't like me. And that was a bit of the environment I was raised in. And on the other side, I had my mom, who was just trying to hold everything together, keep the peace. And, she, whether or not she knew it, the way I interpreted it was she was ignoring the truth of what was happening in front of her.
Yeah.
And, so as a child, didn't know a whole lot. And then as things started to click for me, it all just didn't line up, didn't make sense. And I was confused when I would ask questions. I wouldn't get answers. It's like, oh, you're a kid. Don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
And, so getting into like early teenage years, that's pretty much the way of being or operating my parents' head, which was, we're not going to tell you anything.
Mm.
And I started noticing funny things with, how are my parents acting? And then at a certain point, somewhere between 12 and 13, I found out my mom had cancer.
Oh, wow.
And I didn't know much about it at the time. I knew it wasn't good. And I downplayed it a lot. I was just trying to have a normal teenage life, whatever that meant to me at the time. And from around 13 to 17, I watched her go down the path of chemo, multiple treatments and whatnot. Wow. And I was 17, she passed away.
Wow.
And that it's huge,
Yeah.
And
well, how do you feel like the experience of chaos and, obviously your mom passing away at 17, I imagine was a huge, huge experience for you. How did you find all of that chaos coming into your adult life and affecting you as you moved forward in your experience?
Yeah, so the chaos in my adult life, it's something that I wasn't even aware of, even with all the personal development that I've done. And it was just so deeply ingrained in me that it was normal. So in environments where other people might be feeling the stress of chaos, I was calm and cool, and I would look at people and be like, what's going on? Like, how is this so stressful? And so on one hand, I was witnessing myself being in a different plane of other people. Then on the other hand, I also looked at unconsciously, I was creating chaos in my own life. So through jobs I've had and experiences moving around and whatnot, it was always a setup of I'm catering to chaos.
Okay, got it. But it also sort of became a superpower of yours, I'm hearing, because
Yes,
you were able to make it work even though it was chaotic.
It was chaotic, and I was catering to the chaos. So it was, who do I need to be in relationship to this chaos so I can make it work?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, there's so much in your story that I relate to. I'm like, wow, you're almost telling my story. Interesting. Yeah, heard. Okay, so around all of this, what had you done prior to finding the signature sacred geometry work? What had you done in self-help? What were the things that you had tried to up-level your life with tools that you had found?
Yeah, so initially it just started with a lot of reading books, podcasts. I got into listening to guided meditations, and that was really the first step in. And then it progressed to going through a personal development transforming program that, when I got into it, I didn't really know what I was getting into. It was just, hey, you need to be here. And when I got there, somebody that I had been following that always talked about, I did this training, I did this training, I did this training. I'm sitting there in the room listening, and I was like, oh, this is that training. Okay. So for me, it was very exciting because I knew what was available, not necessarily what was going to happen. So that was really the first step. And mixed in there as well, I'll put it this way, is I went through the majority of those trainings, and then I hit this point where I was like, all right, everything is working, everything's great, and in a sense I was like, well, I'll put it this way, like I've learned what I needed to learn, like I'm on the way, like I'm on the path, all the things. And then 2020 hit, right? And 2020 was a big year for all of us. And beginning of 2020, I started getting sick. And all the doctors were like, oh, it's COVID, but you're negative. And then it progressed to, hey, you have a sinus infection. Take all these drugs, and time and time again, nothing's working. And the whole way, I'm nosediving like that in life. And about 8 months into trying to figure out what was going on, I found out that I had a failed heart valve. And I went from, hey, you can't breathe right, and we might have to, do some exploratory surgery on your sinuses, to, we need to give you open heart surgery and you're in a severe category and you're close to death.
Wow.
And, that first put me into like a shock and a panic.
Yeah.
And it got me to this point of, I was staring life out in front of me. And what have I done? What do I actually want? Where do I want to go? And, so I had the surgery, went through this period of recovery. And then I realized everything in my life that I'm doing is not actually working at all. Like if you looked at it from the outside, it's like, oh, he's got a great paying job. Everything's on the up and up. He's alive, which I am. But
happy to hear it.
From the outside, a lot of people would look at me and be like, why would he have an issue? Why would he have a problem? Everything's golden over there. Right. But the thing is when I went through the experience of surgery and realizing, oh, there's so much more that I get to work on.
Mm,
And it resurfaced a lot more that I didn't know I needed to look at again.
yeah,
I thought I did, the work, but I didn't actually do the work.
got you. Interesting.
And that progressed into getting into energy work.
Okay.
So on a whim, I tried Reiki, which I had heard about it and I was like, let's see what this is about. And, tremendous results for me, moving energy and opening things up. And then not after, it's, in addition to, I stepped into the shamanic space, which is the way I view it is a deeper level of energy work. It's kind of a different realm of energy as far as Reiki. And that continued to open me up and allow me to go deeper within myself and get to know me better and really start addressing all of these things that some of it I was aware of, a lot of it I wasn't. And as I came to, we'll say the completion of working in the shamanic space where I was at, it just clicked into my mind. I was like, I need a new teacher. Right.
Cool.
And it wasn't, well, it is in the realm of I need a new teacher because I know there's more available and this isn't going to be my life. Right. Like I want to figure out what I need to, experience. What do I need to go do to be who I want to be? And within about 2 weeks of me just thinking, oh, hey, I need a new teacher, then I was introduced to Anita.
Amazing.
And in one phone call, I'm just like, yep, this is what I was looking for. Hi.
Amazing.
And I didn't even ask a whole lot of questions. I was just like, it's the inner knowing,
Cool. Very cool. So I heard, why you were looking for something more. You were on this deep spiritual journey where things were opening up and you were saying like, okay, there's a deeper level of understanding. And then meeting Anita, everything clicking, looking for the teacher. You mentioned something that I thought was interesting. You said when you were doing the shamanic work, you were like, okay, I know that this isn't my life and I need to find what my mission and purpose is. So can you tell me a little bit about that? Like, what was the experience of being like, okay, I'm assuming you're saying you don't necessarily want to be a shaman, but like, what is your purpose on the planet?
Right. So it's in the realm of, could I do this? And the answer is absolutely yes, I could do this. I could support people, help people in this realm, and continue to do so with what I experienced and learned, and what I continue to reiterate back out to other people. But the level at which I feel as an inner knowing of where I am moving, like there's more, and it's not a good, bad, right or wrong. There's a different level. And with all of the experiences I've had, it's like, let's not just put Russell in the box over here.
Gotcha.
There's a wider, I'll say a wider audience or a wider array or arena that I get to be in. And it's every single thing that I've learned that has helped me along the way has been leading me up towards where I'm at, and will continue to go.
So I'm excited to hear what your mission and your purpose is. I know that this work really opens that up in a powerful way. And I'm curious what your experience has been working with your signature sacred geometry, and also like, what does that mean to you? Just the idea of that.
Yeah. So far, what's opened up with purpose and mission. One of the things that's been really reoccurring for years, and I would continue to shove it down because I'm like, oh, that's not me, or I don't fit there. It's been opening up that getting into some form of speaking and teaching from my experience. And what that looks like, I don't know yet. And what I've learned too is it will continue to open up and evolve as I continue to do the work and go deeper within myself. And getting into the signatures, I'll say this is a fun one. So it's feminine signatures, which initially Anita's like, hey, you can change it if you want, so it's not feminine. And I'm like, no, it doesn't matter, right? Like, we all have masculine and feminine energy, and this is what they are. So like, I don't need to change it. But in working with that, and really what it means to me, it's the way I've been thinking about it recently too, is when you hear people say, hey, go with your gut feeling. Growing up, I didn't necessarily know what that meant. It was just kind of like, oh, I'm going to get the answer, it's fine. But in learning and integrating back in the feminine signatures, it's literally, it's go with your gut and learning how to communicate with yourself. And the answer is not out there. Right. And coming back to, I'll say, like a grounding and a knowing within yourself.
Yeah.
And a lot of what I've done has kept me looking outside of myself for the answer.
Right.
And this work has turned it back around and said, no, like, it's inside of you. You have the answer. And when you're working with your signatures, it's, you know, you get that knowing of like, yes, do it. No, don't do it.
Right.
And
Which
then
is bespoke for each and every person, right? It's like there are different ways that each, I mean, some of it is a little bit connected to human design. So it's like,
yeah,
there's parts and pieces, right? So it's like each person deciphers their yes and their no in a different way. But then there's also the false traits that come in all the time, or the root wound that comes in and hijacks us. And it's so easy to get off track, is what I've found.
Yeah.
So will you speak into what that's been like to sort of uncover that in a different way? Because I want to speak when we talk about trusting our instincts, it's like, yes, but there's so much work out in the self-development world where it's like your gut, your intuition, all of that. And Anita's work is, in my experience, more potent and more powerful than that, because it brings together so many different avenues that where you're like, oh, there's more parts of the puzzle to like suture.
Yeah. So it's not just, you know, like I was saying, it's go with your gut, and it's more, right? So it's not just like, well, you know, this is what I'm feeling. It's checking in with yourself in multiple ways to get that answer. And coming in with false traits, you know, I'll even give you an example. Is I went on a trip, and part of the trip was like, hey, I have things I need to say. I need to communicate with my sister and whatnot. And I got there, and I, like, it clicked. I was like, oh, she's not in a space to where she could even receive what I need to say. So it clicked in my mind that I'm like, oh, I'm not going to say it.
Yeah.
And then I give it to Anita, and she's like, yeah, bud, that's a false trait coming in. Like, you gotta say what you gotta say. It doesn't really matter what's going on out there. And
Yep.
you know, and she's like, if you're still there, go for it. If you're not there, that's fine. We could still work with it. And I was there, you know, and I took the action, and I got exactly what I believed I was going to get. And at the same time, it's in receiving what I thought I would get, it gave me that, oh, look, I just went and did that. That was scary, right?
Yep.
So that's just one example.
Yep.
Where it's like, oh, I was bypassing what needed to happen because of my logical brain coming in going, oh, look at that. She's not there yet.
Yep.
So,
great.
You know, that was a fun one for me. And then as it continues, it's, you know, it's getting to that point of when you get or receive the answer of like, you need to take this action, like, don't question it and just go for it.
Just do it.
Yeah. And in the example I gave, that was a moment of me like going back on it. And it's like, oh, well, let me rationalize this and blah, blah, blah. And the truth is, it's like, no, you don't need to do that.
Just go do the thing. It may blow some things up right now, but that's actually part of the experience of activating the things that you are in your way right now to receiving what you desire, right? What the greater version of you desires, and moving the sacred geometries. Like it's so wild. It's not a linear process, right? We're so used to being like, okay, if I do X, Y, and Z, then, you know, A will happen or whatever, right? Or A, B, and C, and then D will happen. But this is like, no, like do the thing that's right in front of you, because that's what's being called for. And you don't know what it's going to trigger, but like somehow at some point, it's all going to come back to like, oh, this is actually what I was looking for.
Yep. Yeah. And the fun thing is like I love it, and I've integrated it, and I reiterate it to myself time and time again now. But Anita, initially, she's like, you're either going to get what you desire or something better, or you're going to get what you required to move you down the path towards what you desire. And that's the way I'm looking through everything. It's like, all right, here's what's in front of me. Here's what I need to do. And if I, you know, take this action, it's going to move me towards where I want to go.
Yeah.
And really
so I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
Oh no, you're good.
Yeah. Okay. So it's really a powerful relationship with Anita. You know, I think this working with her as the messenger of the sacred geometry messages from you to her back to you, right? It requires this level of trust and taking the action and really not getting stuck in your false traits. Would you speak into what the experience has been specifically with Anita's coaching and awareness, what that's been like for you?
Yeah. So working with Anita, I'll backtrack it all the way to the first call I had with her. I don't know if this was on that first call or if it was on my second call, but it's in the realm of, like, say you're working with a coach, you know, not intuitive, or say in the spiritual realm, and they're just somebody who knows coaching. They're going to coach you from what they know, their experience, and they're going to coach you in such a way that they're like very prescriptive, you know, A plus B equals C. And like that would work for me, but that's not what I'm here for. Right. And Anita, the way it comes through, the way I've experienced this, it's exactly what I need to hear without a question. So the first really big thing that came through, which I didn't realize I needed to hear it either, was so like I shared, for the last couple of years now, I've been going down this road of I'm healing and I'm recovering from surgery. I'm trying to find a greater meaning and purpose to me in my life. And what do I need to address? And I'm just going, and I'm stuck in this mindset of I need to heal. Right. And the first thing that Anita shared that really struck me was, she's like, hey, you don't need to heal because you're not broken. And it struck me in such a way because I've been working in the realm of healing. You know, first it was my body needs to heal. And that was my story. Oh, when my body's this, my body's that. And then I hit this point of my body's starting to feel, well, per se, more normal. And I don't feel better. And so going down all the rabbit holes of, you know, I was like, what do I need to do? Because clearly what I've done in the past is not working now. And I'm willing to try whatever is out there. And in the willingness, you know, that going down the path got me to Anita. Right.
Amazing.
And with that, it's been hearing the things I need to hear in the way I need to hear them. And it's not just words, right? It lands as soon as it comes through. And then because it landed, everything else, well, I'll just say it's like you put a bunch of marbles in a jar and, you know, went like that. And because the one thing moved, everything else starts moving.
Yeah. Oh, I like
Where
that.
it's like, I knew I was stuck, but I didn't know where I was stuck. And then just by moving the one stuck piece, everything shifted.
Mm,
The way I've been describing it to a couple folks that have only known me since post-surgery and have been in the realm of I've been working with them or learning with them or growing with them. even just this morning, I was on the phone with my buddy and I told him, I was like, hey, I'm in a space and a version of me that I haven't seen in a long time.
mm,
And you're going to be experiencing me in a way you've never experienced me.
awesome.
So
Powerful.
it's all getting regrounded in a place of knowing, and knowing from inside of this is who I am and where I need to go.
Mm,
And just because somebody else wouldn't do it, or maybe it doesn't make sense to somebody else,
mm,
doesn't mean it's wrong for me.
yeah, powerful. So
Yeah.
I'm hearing in your share about the work with Anita and the bespoke sacred geometry, the signature for you, right? It's different for each person. Is that it's supporting you in taking and shifting maybe the specific pieces that are in the way for you, and then when you take that significant but perhaps smaller action than we sometimes think in the personal development world or in the world of success, it's like you got to grind it out, you got to work harder, you got to vibe up because you're calling bad things in, right? Like right, you're not positive enough, or you're not clear enough, you haven't put enough like energy into getting the thing right. It's like the experience is like for you has been like, take these specific things, shift these specific things, and then everything else transforms. Is that what I'm hearing with this marble analogy?
Yeah, so it's taking the one small specific action, everything else shifts. And then, well, put it this way, it's kind of like playing connect the dots, but you don't see the next dot until you move the first one. And when you move the first one, then the next dot appears. And it's coming into a place of a knowing and an understanding and a trust that when you take the action, the next thing will open up, it will appear. You don't need to know what it is. And historically, I've been in the place of, I need to know now. And if I know, I can prepare. If I know, I can perform. If I know, I can be all the things.
Right. Well, I mean, that's what society's taught us, right? I mean, that's the dominant belief that's going on out in society today, which is like, no more, armor yourself, be prepared, like have the study, right? Like, don't trust your intuition because it's messy in there. Right.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I'll put it this way too, is just to give you another example, is so prior to even meeting Anita, I had guidance, come through me that the job I had, I need to get out, for many reasons. And first it was just a thought, and then it was like I'm done on Tuesday when we come back from the holiday, right? And that's how it went. It was out of left field, and I've stuck to my guns. Amazing. And then I met Anita, and one of the first things I told her, I'm like, all right, Anita, I got to get another job. We got to figure it out. I can't not be working, because here I am for the first time in my life since I was 16. I'm not working, right? And to me, work has historically been, if you're not working, you have no value.
Right.
And it's hilarious because Anita is just like, no. I was like, no what? And she's like, don't get a job. I was like, what are you talking about? What do you mean, don't get a job? Like, I need money. And she's like, you don't need money right now. You're fine. And I was like, okay. And she brought it back to, like, it needs to be a want and a desire from you, and to serve you in moving forward and getting this job. Whenever that happens, if that's what is for you. In the meantime, that's not for you. Stop it. and don't worry about it. And well, I'll put it this way too. So that's progressed to this morning. I had a second round interview with a company that I did not apply to. My resume was handed by somebody else, and then they called me. And even the person who did that for me, he's like, "You got any other companies lined up? Like, what are you doing?" And I'm like, "Dude, it's come through that I don't need to look. Like, I don't need to worry about it. I'm just going with it. It's going to be great." So I have that on one hand, and then other people that are, either family or close friends, they're starting to get antsy with me, saying, "Hey, don't you think it's about time you get a job? Don't you think it's about time you start doing all these things? What are you doing?" And I'm just like, "Don't worry, I got it."
Awesome. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Beautiful. So two things on there. I'd like to circle back just one more time to this sacred geometry work, because it is so different than so many of the things, well, anything else that I've found, bringing all these different pieces together. So it's like, sometimes it will sound like other work, because it's like, oh, that exists in that cosmology, right? But it's actually so different. When you take this one specific action and it changes kind of everything in this quantum way in your life, it's also evolving you, and through that simple action, I found it's also evolving you into this new version of yourself that isn't messed with by the things that used to mess with you. Have you experienced that with this work?
Yeah, I'll say that. And well, it's almost like a different level of awareness once you integrate and step into what comes in and what you're taught through sacred geometry. And I'm experiencing myself and life different.
Yeah.
And in regards to myself, it's not just Anita saying, "Hey, go do that thing," but it's like I do the one action, and then something that maybe 20 minutes ago I would never even entertain the thought of doing or pursuing it whatsoever. Now it's like, oh, I need to do that. And it's not I have to do it. It's I see this so clearly. This is where it needs to go. This is what I want to do. And I have no clue what that looks like. And it scares the crap out of me. And I'm going to go do it.
Awesome.
So, I can give you an example of that, of what's opening up too. And this is the most, I'll say, recent or fresh thing is, so I went and met my sister and had that experience, met my niece, had a great time. And while I was out visiting her, which she lives on the opposite side of the country as me.
Hold on, my baby is crying. So here's what I'm gonna do. I wanna continue having you talk, and I'll probably just shift it to your camera, and I'm gonna feed her at the same time while you're talking, but she's kind of losing it. So give me 2 seconds to get her, okay?
1, 2.
Okay, yeah, right. Hey, the carrier is food. You don't think she needs food? Yeah, I'll be out in 10 minutes. Okay? Cool. Okay, great. So you went and visited your sister, and
Yeah, so went and visited my sister, and at the same time, she had invited out a cousin, an aunt, and an uncle on my biological dad's side of the family that I haven't seen since I was maybe 6 and not connected with. And I didn't know what to expect with that either. And while I was out there, I got connected with my cousin and started learning more about my dad's side of the family and what has been their experience with the lack of involvement in our life from their side and my side. And I'm sitting there listening, and it's just opening up, and I'm like, oh, like their story is the same as mine. And it's never going to be different unless something else happens. And that's progressed to I haven't set the date yet because it kind of keeps shifting with everything, but within the next month, I'm flying out to Las Vegas and I'm going to be meeting my dad again for the first time since I was 8. So
Amazing.
don't know how many years that is, but
Wow.
what's also been coming through with that is the stories that I've had. I was so young that the stories I have really been other people's stories.
Interesting.
So I've been, I've had this understanding through somebody else's lens, somebody else's experience, and I've walked with it as this is what it is, this is what it was, that just, it's over there. I don't need to touch it.
Mm,
And the truth is, it's like, well, that wasn't your experience. Let's take a look at what your experience actually was based on your memory.
yeah.
And as I've dug into that a little bit with Anita, it's been, oh, that's actually a really positive experience and positive memories. And this person can't be a complete terrible person.
Interesting. Interesting. Yeah.
So it's
Amazing.
been, it wasn't on the list of things to do. And in the realm of like, what do you desire, what do you want from this? Part of it is like, I know I need to take the action.
Mm,
And then getting into the what do I want, and even as recent as last night, I'm sitting there writing it all out, getting into it, and it's like, if you look at it from the perspective of what if you got exactly what you want,
mm,
or what you'd require, what does that look like? And to me, I'm like, well, shoot, I just want a dad. That's all I want. I don't really know what that looks like, but I never had that. And it's like, well, it's available. Go take a look.
yeah, right. All these things, we make them so challenging. It's like, how could I ever achieve that? Right. And then it's like, oh, wait a minute. It's like totally available to me. And I would have spent so much time spinning my wheels and logic, trying to figure out how to like orchestrate all of it. But actually, it's just like the very simple answer. But I would never see that on my own because my false traits are so running the show most of the time.
Yeah.
It's
And
totally wild. So
yeah,
wild.
it's kind of like the analogy of wearing glasses that are fogged up, and you start, wiping the fog off the glasses. It's like you're staring through dirty lenses. And the thing is you don't know they're dirty because they've always been there.
Right. Yeah.
And
Totally.
yeah, so it's been a bit of a roller coaster, but in like the best possible way.
Yeah, well, with that, I would love to hear, to just kind of wrap things up, like what
Yeah.
are some of the stories and things that have shocked, surprised, blown you away? I know you've shared some of those things.
Hmm.
And then, what does your life look like now? And, what have you broken through? But this has all been ingrained in what we've been talking about, but specifically, like, what are some things that have shocked you that have come through with this work that you could share?
Hmm. Well, holistically, I'll say is shocking and not shocking at the same time. It's essentially I've been living disembodied, and I didn't even know what that meant. And some of the prior work I've done before getting to Anita was starting to bring me back down in and be connected. And now it's like, hey, you started it, and now here's the real deal. Right? Let's bring you back into you. Right? And like, life is my experience, right? It's not me watching somebody else's experience and then going, why don't I have that?
Mm,
It's come back into, hey, it's all about you. It's about what you want. It's okay to want.
mm,
And it's okay to be all about you. It doesn't mean all these other things that society has told you, right? It's okay, right? Want what you want. Go do it. This is the show, right? And it's you're the creator. And through a lot of the other work I've done, they've told me the information, right? And I heard it, And I was like, that's great. That sounds amazing. How do I do that? Right. And this is, well, here's how you do that. All the things you've been told. You might know a couple tools here or there, but really they're management tools. They're not going to get you there. And at first I didn't understand that either until I started seeing it. I was like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
Right. And some of the other shocking things, it might seem so small, but prior to getting here, I was more attached to doing it the right way.
Mm.
Right. And you touched on this a little bit is, if I do this and that, this is what's going to happen. And this is the realm of, I'm going to do this. I don't know what this is, and something will happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there's no right or wrong way of doing it. Right. It's just go do it. And that in itself has been so freeing to me.
Mm.
It might sound so simple, but when you just hear it versus being able to integrate it, once you finally integrate it and start experiencing life from that lens, you're like, oh, I think I get it.
You have to experience it, right? You have
Yeah.
to, it's something that you have to experience it. Even talking about it doesn't totally make sense for anybody who's watching. It's like, oh, how is this actually different than any other self-help work that we're talking about, right?
Right. And
yeah.
even with that too, it's like I've gone down the rabbit hole of many of the different avenues that you go. And it's led me here. And it's not to take away from anything else I've done, but I feel, at least on my path, I had to go through each one of the steps to allow it to open more up, to integrate more in, to where once I got to this arena, which is really the arena, everything else has been a warm-up.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the teachers I had, even, I shot her a text recently and I was like, hey, thank you for teaching me how to I'll put it this way, like hold space for myself. Like I didn't know how to do that. And it was always, I'm having this breakdown. Who do I go talk to so they can give me, the reassurance that I need, and they can tell me what I need to do. And the last teacher I had really taught me how to do that for myself. And then when I got into this arena, which the way I put it is, well, I'll compare it to like in the shamanic space, you go through shamanic death cycles, is what they call it. And it's a death of a way of being, or just something that's not really working for you in life. And similarly, you can't see it until it's there. The process for that, it's not an immediate like boom, 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 it happens. It's more of it's going to open up, we're easing into it, and then it happens, and then you go through the experience, and then you start coming back out on the other end. And you've worked through this, and it's much slower than getting into sacred geometry, which the way I would put it, it's like I might experience the entire process in one day. I might experience it multiple times in a week.
Yep.
And initially when I started working with Anita, it was in the realm of like, I would have this big blowout emotionally with myself because of what came through and landed for me and my vision on whatever the thing is. And it would take me out for a day, maybe two. And now I'm to the point where it's like, oh, I might actually have this breakdown for about an hour or two.
Awesome.
And then I step through it, and it's not, I'm leaving it behind. It's not shoving it away. It's not removing it. It's experiencing it and just being with it. And then it's not, in a sense, ruining my whole day.
Yeah.
Which is, it's tremendous and powerful for me.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. Great. So what does the phrase mean to you? The only way out is through, and what has come through for you in your sacred geometry signature around that concept?
I mean, I'm gonna backtrack it a little bit. Like you put it to, like I shared, open heart surgery. You can't avoid that. Like the choice I was given is you have the surgery or you die. What are you gonna do? It's like, well, I don't want to die. And that's like a large experience, right? But the thing is like every single little thing in our life, that's really what it comes down to. And that's how I feel I'm at this point is if I don't do this, I will die. So I'm going to go through it. And I don't care essentially what happens because I know it needs to happen. And coming into that place of, well, the place of and the understanding of this needs to happen for me and my path. I don't know what I'm going to get, but I know what's on the other side is exactly what I need either to receive or it's going to be exactly what I want. And the only way to get it is by stepping in and not listening to everybody else saying, what are you doing?
Totally. So I'm really hearing in all of your shares this like deep sovereignty that comes from actually like being internally compassed and rooted and knowing that like there may be external chaos that happens from whatever action, or maybe there won't be, maybe there will just be bliss. Either way, you know, the internal experience that we have, it's like we can be the eye of the storm and be like, okay, this is what gets to happen. And there's like there's a power in that knowingness and not just beingness and the sovereignty that comes along with it.
Yeah. And I'll also say too, is one of the things Anita initially said to me too, is she's like, as you go through this process and traverse your root wound and start down on your path, or having it open up and reveal to you, she's like, life is going to become a vacation. Like that's available to you. And when she said that, I didn't make it wrong, but I was like, I don't know what that means. I don't really know how to interpret that. Because if every day is a vacation, what do you mean? Right? Like it doesn't really compute. It's like, did you know like you can feel fine every day and connected with yourself and know that what's happening is exactly where you need to be? Like, did you know that's available? And it's like, no, and that's scary.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Right?
Wonderful. And so this is the last question because I do need to hop off here. You have things going on too, but how have you experienced stepping into your life as a much more enjoyable, luscious, you know, fun? Yeah. What's that been like for you?
Yeah. So like it's funny because I'll take it back to Anita saying, hey, don't go get a job. Don't rush that. And first it was a lot of like anxiety and worry and what if this, what if that? And then there was just a day where I recognized it's like, oh, I woke up today. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And I feel great. And it wasn't because I have nothing on the agenda. It's because I had a shift. And it's like, oh, this is what life could feel like always. And the rest of what I was experiencing was all me. Being worried and concerned about what could happen. And the thing is one, it doesn't help you to worry about that. And two, it's not happening. And when you get there, when you know that you're fine, you'll be able to handle it. You know, that's as hard as it needs to be.
Awesome. I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for sharing your grace and your experience and your transformation. And so excited to share this with others so that they can, you know, resonate with an easier path, easier in some respects and the most challenging path in others. But yeah, thank you for being a way shower.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me and allowing me to share. And you know, I'm as all we are, we're all still on the journey, and it's going to continue to open up, unfold, and I can only imagine how things are going to look even from a week from now. Who knows? So
So true.
that's part of it. And then just yeah, I'll leave it with that. I had another thought and it flew away.
Good.
Oh,
Oh yeah. Yes.
yeah. So back to what you're saying, which is, in some regards and respects, this is an easier path.
Mm.
And in some regards, it's not. But the thing is there's no wrong way to do it once you step onto this path. And it's easier because you can't screw it up, right? You don't have to go through a daily ritual or meditate or think about, the dollars and the sunshines and the rainbows and then just go, what do I do? Right? You don't have to do any of that. It's what do you know? What do you need to do? And then go. And yeah, it's freed up a lot of my time.
I know, and pretty much all of it's mental. It's like, mental energy takes up most of your life. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So true. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing with us, Russell. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Yeah.
And, we'll talk again soon.
Oh, we will.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah,
you.
because I'll put it this way too, is it's really funny because last week when Kelly's like, oh, Alexa's here, and she's like, can we reschedule our hanging out? And I was like, well, I could still meet Alexa.
I mean, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. and then I think it was Monday, it came around and I was like, I don't feel like going anywhere. I'm not coming.
And that's the beauty of the sacred geometry signature work. It's like, yep, trust it. Okay, I'm gonna stomp. Okay, we'll see you soon. I'm just gonna stop. So back up. Say this little thing again. So yeah. So you said, I know you might be at this place too.
Yeah, so you might be at this place too, but the thing is I'm at the point of I don't care what I have to do to figure myself out. The thing is I know there's a version of life over there that I'm meant to go to, I'm meant to experience, I'm meant to receive it. And the thing is it's not just gonna happen. And it's not gonna happen without me. So that's part of my drive. It's just the version of life I have, it's not bad, right? And there's more available, and I know it.
And it's awesome to get those tastes. Yeah. Because it's like life turns more and more into a vacation all the time. It's so wild.
Yeah, and I really look forward to the day to where I wake up and I have to start rejecting things on my calendar because I can't fit it in. I really look forward to that. And it's probably closer than I think.
Amen. Awesome. Thank you.
Well, thank you.